Are you in the mood for Mexican food, but you just don't want to go to a restaurant and not be sure of how many bites, points, or calories you're using up? Well, I have the perfect solution for you here. This is my Crockpot chicken mole, and if you've never had mole before, you are in for a treat. Because in case you didn't know, mole actually has chocolate in it. So if you'd like to see how this is done and have a little chocolate for dinner, stick around because it's coming up next. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Roy. I'm a home cook, an amateur baker, and I'm here on this channel sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now today is one of mine, but it is based on a classic Mexican dish called chicken mole. Mole sauce is very popular in a lot of Mexican restaurants, but if you've never tried it, there's one ingredient that might surprise you, and that is chocolate. Now, not all moles contain chocolate, but typically a lot of them do. That's now the new standard. Whenever you hear mole, you automatically assume it's made with chocolate. But it's not like candy bar chocolate. It is usually a Mexican chocolate, something that is not very sweet. So I am doing it with the chocolate because that's the way I like it. But this is basically a chili sauce that has chocolate in it. There are many, many variations, so I don't mind coming up with one of my own. Depends on the region of Mexico that you go to. You could have totally different types of mole in one area than another in Mexico, and probably even in Mexican restaurants in the US. But this is my take on it. I experimented a little bit and we really liked the way this one came out. Plus, I decided to do it in a crock pot, so that way it's a little easier. Now, moles are typically known as having a lot of ingredients. Most of them are spices, but some of them are also fruits, nuts, and as I said, chocolate. So this is definitely a different take. If you've never had it before, you really have to try it. So let's go over the ingredients. I have here some cooking spray, of course. Here I have a 15-ounce can of corn. Typically, you wouldn't add a vegetable to it, but I wanted to make this a more comprehensive dish. But you could leave that out and it would lower some of the carbs, fiber, and sugars if you left out the corn. But because I don't want to make a side dish, I figured I'd just throw it right in. But you could also use frozen corn, 1.5 cups, and just have that thawing while the rest of this dish is cooking, because the corn's not going to go in until the last minute. And it doesn't have to be corn. I'm just using corn because it is fairly typical in Mexican recipes to have some corn. Here I have a 10-ounce can of enchilada sauce. Now that is my little sneaky way of condensing a lot of ingredients. I don't have to deal with tomatoes and other spices and things like that. So I'm using the 10-ounce can of enchilada sauce to kind of condense a few of those other ingredients. Here I have 1 small onion that I've diced. That's about 1/2 cup if you want to use frozen or what have you. Here I have 1/4 cup of chicken broth, and you could use water as well, but I like having a little extra flavor from the chicken broth. And speaking of chicken, here I have 1.5 pounds of chicken breast, and it's a little bit over. This is 2 breasts, they're large, whatever it takes to get to 1.5 pounds. Or if you're like me, I'm on the Healthy, Better, Balanced plan, which is equivalent to the old WW Blue plan. That I have chicken as a 0-bite food, so I'm not worried about having a little extra. But if you're watching calories or macros and you want to be more precise, just use 1.5 pounds. Here I have 3 tablespoons of brown sugar replacement. That's going to give us a nice earthy flavor. The regular sugar replacement wouldn't give us that. So I do suggest that you use brown sugar replacement, but in a pinch, you could get away with the granulated. Here I have 2 tablespoons of powdered peanut butter. I'm using PB2, but whichever one you use is fine. That is going to take the place of the nuts or sesame seeds or different things like that that are often found in a mole. And here I have 3 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder. That is obviously taking the place of the chocolate. And we're using unsweetened so we get that deep, dark, rich flavor from it. It's really going to enhance this dish. Now for our spices, we have 1 tablespoon of chili powder, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of table salt, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of ground black pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of cumin, and 1/4 teaspoon of cloves. Now the cloves and the cinnamon may seem odd, just like the chocolate does, but they do add a nice depth of flavor, especially the clove has that little bit of a bite. But those are all of the ingredients that we're gonna need. So let me grab my crock pot and we're gonna get this thing going. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is make our sauce. Now you could, if you didn't want to use this for chicken, you could use it for anything. In some regions of Mexico, they actually serve this over turkey. But if you just wanted the sauce that you could refrigerate or freeze and then do something else with, you could just combine all of these sauce ingredients and either cook them in the crock pot or just do it on the stovetop until it reduces down and thickens a little bit. But we are doing it in the crock pot with our chicken. So the first thing we're going to do is mix our sauce together. Brown sugar replacement, powdered peanut butter, cocoa powder, chili powder, cumin, salt, black pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, cinnamon, and cloves. And we're just going to whisk that all together, breaking up that brown sugar replacement. And if you can't break it all up with the whisk, just get in there with your hands and break that up. You want this to be as homogeneous as you can get it, so you don't want big clumps of brown sugar replacement. Although, if you have a few, it's not going to matter because it will be melting down in the crock pot. And then just continue to whisk that together. Now we're going to take our chicken broth and our enchilada sauce and whisk that all together so that everything gets incorporated into the liquid. And it will be a little thick, but you have to remember, since we are putting it in the crock pot with the chicken breast, the chicken will release some juices as it's cooking, which will thin this down a little bit. But there it is, nice thick sauce right there. So now I'm going to move this aside, bring in our crock pot, coat your crock pot with a little bit of cooking spray. Spread the onions down on the bottom of the crock pot just to kind of create a little layer for the chicken to sit on. And then I'm just going to lay our chicken breasts. We're going to pour our sauce right over the top and scrape out as much of that as you can get. As I always say, if you're using the bites, points, calories, and macros for it, you might as well get every drop. And guess what? That's all there is to it. We're just going to put the lid on, and I'm going to cook this on low for about 4 hours. If you needed it in a little more of a hurry than that, you could do it on high for about 2 hours. But I'm going to put this on for 4 hours on low, and then I'll be back to show you how to finish it up. All right, so it has been 4 hours. I did temp the chicken just to make sure it was ready to go, and it is. So what I'm going to do is remove the chicken from the sauce, and I'm going to shred it. Now you could, if you want, also just dice it up if you prefer, but I really like that shredded texture. Now the chicken's out. I'm going to add in my can of corn and let that start to cook while I'm shredding up the chicken. And I'll just stir that through a little bit. Now, you don't have to put the corn in. As I said, this isn't standard. I just wanted to have a vegetable in here, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. And the corn does add a lot of the carbs, fiber, and sugars, as I mentioned, that are going to be listed in the nutrition facts at the end. So if you left that out, if you're watching your carb intake, you could change it out for something less carby. You could put in some green beans. You could just leave it out entirely. But that's done. Now I'm going to take my forks and I'm going to shred up my chicken. I know that there is a way to do it in a mixer, but for me, that becomes too fine of a shred. And I like a little more texture than that. So I'm going to do it by hand. But you do it whichever way works best for you. So let me get this chicken shredded up. Okay, so I have the chicken all shredded up. I already put one back in there just so I had room to shred the other one. I also have some rice cooking over here. I'm going to be serving this over rice. And I have a Roma tomato here that I'm going to dice up just to put on top. You can put different things on top if you want. You can put some scallions. You can put some more onion, maybe a little bit of green pepper. You could do avocado or even just some Greek yogurt in place of sour cream. So now that this is all shredded up, I'm going to bring that back over and add this all back in. And then I'm going to toss that all through the sauce so everything gets nicely coated. You want that flavor to really get into the chicken. And now what I'm going to do is just cover this again, and I'm going to turn it on high for just about 10 or 15 minutes because I want that chicken to really soak up a lot of that sauce and get that flavor embedded in there. So this will go about 10 to 15 minutes. My rice has just about the same amount of time. So give me a moment and I'll be back. All right, so it's been 15 minutes. I'm gonna turn that off. I have my rice ready. I did dice up my Roma tomato, so that's ready to go on top. And there we have delicious chicken mole. Now this is going to give you 6 servings, and they're going to be a generous 3/4 of a cup to a cup. It depends on how much liquid you get from your chicken, but it will be around 3/4 of a cup to a cup. And I'm going to serve that on about 3/4 cup of rice. So this is going to be a very filling, flavorful meal. And if you wanted to bulk this up a little bit more, get a little more protein in here, you could add some beans, some black beans, kidney beans, what have you. So you can really bulk this up and make this a delicious, filling meal. You can also use this as meal prep. You can store it in the fridge for up to 4 days or in the freezer for up to 4 months. Now for the nutrition facts, 1 serving of this is only going to be 1 Better Balanced Bite or Old Blue Point. So you can splurge on a little bit of rice to go along with it. But if not, go with whatever you feel like having it with. Now, if you are following calories, the calories for 1 serving of this is going to be 200. And if you are following macros, the fat would be 4 grams. Saturated fat would be 0.3 grams. Protein would be 29.2 grams. Carbs would be 19.2 grams. Fiber would be 3.2 grams. And sugars would be 5.9 grams. And the carbs, fiber, and sugars are elevated because of the corn in there. If you didn't use the corn or you use something else, that would change. But this is a very filling dish. I mean, who knew you could have savory chocolate? But if you enjoyed this recipe and this video, I'd appreciate you doing the usual, like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit that notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video, such as this Sunday, we are doing a collab for quick weeknight meals. So I'm going to be doing chicken cacciatore. So if you're in need of weeknight meals that come together quickly, you're going to want to check out that collab this Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Also, you may notice a new feature underneath this video is now a banner that has recipes with Roy gear. And I am selling shirts and aprons and mugs and glasses and notebooks, etc. So if you are able to support the channel by purchasing a little item, I would really appreciate that. Also down there is going to be the link to the recipe right here and link to my blog itself if you're looking for any of my recipes. Also down there is my Amazon storefront. If I've used anything here that you may have been interested in, it could be there. Also, there's my Fetch rewards, my Built Bar rewards, and my social media, my Instagram, and 3 Facebook groups that I'm part of. So check out that description box for all sorts of information. All right, so there it is, my delicious chicken mole. I am so excited to be having chocolate for dinner tonight. I can't wait. And I hope you'll be having some yourself very soon. So until next time, bye.